Coming live from down under, it's Haze and Execute. Shh, do not adjust your set. Do not adjust your set. It's not like I'm strangling a cat.
Alright there. Welcome to the Inforunners. This is episode 35, I think, now. And today we're going to be talking about ground combat and try to make predictions on how that's going to end up.
Awesome. We're having a heat wave down here in Australia. I'm sweating like a pig. I don't know about you, Haze. How's it going up in Queensland in your neck of the woods?
I normally turn off my air conditioner for recording, but it's just like, no. No.
Yeah, I had to leave mine on today, so if it's a bit of background noise, I apologise, but man, it is really hot here at the moment, and I'm not enjoying it. Hey guys, nice to see you again. We've got a few people in chat already. That's good to see. That's awesome. Well, I just put my camera out of focus with my big nose. There we go. Right, so ground combat. We know it's coming, don't we? We've, you know, it's probably a bit of feature creep. I feel just a bit, but it's kind of warranted with the way things have gone with the planetary tech. What's your take on it, Haze?
I reckon planetary tech is the feature creep, and you know, ground combat is something that just came out of it, something which perhaps they never planned for, and so they still are treading water and not really sure where that's going to go. But it's exciting because that's a huge other element. Because before we had the best grade space sim, and now we have armor-esque or armored combat or light combat or battlefield combat. I don't know. You've
gone a little bit robotic for me there, man. I'm going to need to repeat that.
Yeah, it's now that we've gone planet sides.
Gone robotic, man. I can't hear a single thing. So.
Oh dear.
Having difficulties doing this live.
Okay, we'll try this again. So yeah, for ground combat, still robotic? Am I doing
that? There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Excellent. So yeah, for ground combat now, it's no retakes on live episodes, people.
No, it's fine. Just keep going.
Yeah, so like, they're not sure exactly what ground combat is going to be, because this was never a thing. This is like something that's tacked on to planetary tech. They've suddenly made planets, and now they're putting ground vehicles because you need something to do on planets. You need one's a method of exploration without, you know, flying around in a spaceship, and second, they need transportation between, you know, points of interest. So this is uncharted territory for CAG, and they're still, you know, figuring it out. So the big question is, there will be ground combat, because, you know, we've got Marines, we've got vehicles, the vehicles have weapons. The question is, how are they going to flesh this out moving forward?
In a strange type of way, I see it as like, you know how there's like emergent gameplay? It's almost like emergent development. By doing the planetary tech, they've stumbled onto this, oh shit, we need vehicles all of a sudden, type of thing. That's it. Do you see it similar to that, or and now they're kind of... They're not scrambling, but they are now. The scope is increased.
Yeah, well, they
definitely
have scrambled for ground vehicles. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure at the beginning of the year they did not have a huge swath of ground vehicles on the roadmap. They suddenly just brought it out of nowhere. They didn't tell us about it, and you know they've been telling us for a while, we're going to get these great big industry ships the end of last year, and we're still waiting on that, because these ground vehicles have pushed all of that stuff to the side.
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. We do know the Nox started modelling in January, so that kind of gives you a bit of an ETA where they kind of kicked in and went, oh shit, we need more than just the Dragonfly and the Ursa.
What's the point of having planets if you don't have anything to do on them?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'd like to see them. I think you and I have talked this about before. I want to see a bit more utility vehicles, ground-wise, you know, so something that could help with mining, or something that can help with scavenging, or whatever it would be. You know, the closest thing we've got at the moment is probably the fact that the Tumbril Cyclone can carry a little bit of cargo. That's the closest thing I can see. But you know, I could see a drilling mining platform vehicle, or a, you know, even just a simple tow truck. We just haven't seen that yet.
I think there's going to be no end to the amount of ground vehicles we keep seeing over the next couple of years. And like, we've obviously seen more ground vehicles than ships this year. If you don't include those snubs as actual ships. But
yeah, that's true.
But the real question we're asking here is, which direction of a myriad of different directions is CIG going to take this ground combat? I mean, they have a couple of different options. At the moment, these ground vehicles, at the end of the day, couldn't even face off against a Vanguard, let alone some of these big ships. It's just, it's insane. So they limit ships and have sort of air exclusion zones where these ground vehicles are not completely outmatched. And therefore, you'd land from a distance, drop a landing party, and then go into the ground area to assault it. And perhaps then take down the air defenses or some other sort of a mission. The other option...
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think Clayseth in chat just beat us to the punch. He was getting to where we were going to talk about. So he's just said, what is the point of ground vehicles when spaceships are so versatile in the universe? And yeah, as Haze was mentioning, other games kind of mitigate this by making it so that we've seen it in the demo where they first landed on the planet with the sandworm. You know, the ship couldn't go into the area, so they had to land and then go in by foot. That they may do something like that, or have platforms that fire lots of missiles, so you just can't enter that airspace. To answer
there is a second option though. There is
a
second direction they could go. They could go full hog. They could go heavy weapons systems and platforms. They could make it so that ground-based vehicles or installations are evenly matched, or maybe even more so, than actual spaceships. And then you force spaceships to then send landing parties out to neutralize those threats before they can even move in. And, you know...
Yeah, my personal feeling is they are going to go more whole hog, because if you look at something like the Titan suit, I think that is... their thought on how they're going to combat it, and that to me, that making it kind of tells me that they've already seen this coming, and that's their plan, is to make vehicles that can, and also the Tumbril Cyclone with the AA on it. That's a little bit I don't know how good that's going to be be honest. Let's say, like you and I have talked about that, we don't think it's going to be that great, but that and maybe some weapon platforms and some other neat weapons, because it is in the sci-fi universe. It could totally change the way that we think about the overpoweredness of, like, what do they call it, air superiority. I think it could change quite drastically.
Well, in that case, you'd have proper heavy weapons platforms, tanks, AA platforms, heavy installations, maybe even installations with shielding. That's not unheard of.
Yeah. Just one I just came into my head then is, the flak cannon trucks from World War II. Something akin to that would be kind of cool as well. I could see that happening quite interesting. Like one guy drives around, the other guy's shooting like a maniac on the back. I reckon that'd be kind of cool.
The main problem, though, is that if they go into a full hog armored warfare versus ships type, it's a huge balancing effort. I mean, like, if they segregate space combat from ground combat as two distinct modes, they can focus on making a space game first.
Yes, so realistically, they'll balance the spaceships and balance the ground combat around the spaceships. That's how it'll work. You'll have to go from a top-down approach, so spaceships come first, then ground combat, then, if you want to go even smaller again, onto foot. And that is literally how they'll have to do it. There is no if, buts, or maybes around that. If you go the other way, the spaceships will be affected too much. So yeah, it is going to be a balancing act, but it's like that in any game. It's just a matter of repetition until you get it right.
I think because it's a huge undertaking and far outside of their scope. Like, at the moment, their priorities are like Squadron 42 and PU beta release all professions. And I think because ground combat is too far out of getting their space sim out of the door, it may be not seen until much later to see more advanced ground combat systems, especially ones that interact with ships, until after beta release. Yeah,
I would hope it is that way, because we've been waiting for gameplay for so long, and it really, if it's delayed by however long it's delayed, I'm not even going to speculate on how short or long it would be. I want to see some gameplay. We've been waiting for a really long time. Even just simple cargo is going to drastically change things in 3.0, but every patch after that, it's going to multiply, because even with cargo, as soon as you chuck cargo in, you naturally get piracy, you naturally then get bounty hunting, and you naturally getting escorting or interdiction, or whatever you want to call it. Sorry, not interdiction, but you get my drift. You get a few other professions that come naturally flying off the back of the other one, and it'll be the same with others.
Well, Star Citizen, there's so much opportunity with it now. We have Planet Tech to, instead of just having World War II in space, why don't we have World War II on the ground? Why don't we have Star Wars-based-esque ground battles like we have in the movies? You know, this is the sort of game, and that's the sort of gameplay that Chris Roberts wants. He's probably going like, oh, I want ground combat like Star Wars. It's going to be great. And you know, he's going, oh, we want it now. And then I can imagine Aaron Roberts going, no, Chris, we're going to do Squadron 42 first, and then we're going to get into the PU and the beta. Then we can talk about this after.
Yeah,
I can see him reining him in there. Yeah, because this is, you know, Planet Tech is feature creep, and then ground battles, like full-blown ground battles, is like feature creep plus plus plus. It's too far outside the scope.
Yeah, I can. Getting back to the style of it, like, yeah, it's a bit battle. You say Star Wars, but Battlefront, or Battlefield. Yeah, I can seriously see now, if they've got 60. So let's just say 64 for the argument, 64 people working in the universe, and if they can increase that to something like 1,000, that not just only takes on Battlefield, but that takes on games like PlanetSide, and that's just wow. You know,
well, then you start looking at a cross between PlanetSide and Armor, and that's crazy.
Well, I've forgotten the name of it, but they did that in Eve too. They had the spin-off that was on the PlayStation. Do you remember? I don't remember what it's called, but I'm sure someone in chat will spit it out. There was a ground version of the game, and it was kind of PlanetSide-esque, and it was the things that they affected each other between that and Eve. I could see, but this is all in one game. It's not affecting another game. It's like everything's going to affect everything. And does this mean we're going to get these huge, massive, like planet-esque, or solar system-esque massive battles that would just be like the scene out of episode 3 of Star Wars with the fight over Coruscant? Like, are we going to get something like that, and like planes crashing through atmosphere and like crashing into a city planet of Arcork or something of that nature?
I honestly think we're going to see some of that in Squadron 42. I wouldn't be surprised if they let some actual NPC missions that were similar in nature to that. The idea that
there you go.
Too complex for a player to set up and defend and attack, but if it was all pre-rigged through generated NPCs and all the rest, I imagine we could see those epic sort of ground battles, which with a space battle going up above, and you know, the different objectives between them. I could see that happening.
Yeah. That name of that game was June 4/15. Close, put it in chat. There's an interesting question there too. Sorry to kind of sidetrack, but it actually does bring up a valid point. Dust, yeah, sorry. Does it matter how many tanks you have inside an outpost for defense? All it takes is a few railgun shots from an Idris, and it's time for a claimer playtime. I kind of don't agree with that, because I think they'll definitely put in some form of planetary shielding. I think that's almost like a no-brainer. It would also make it so that planes have to come, or ships have to come closer to the planet to allow them to be shot. It's a self-balancing mechanism. If you can have some kind of planetary shield tech, they can't just sit back in orbit and bombard you.
CRG have already ruled out planetary bombardments. You can't just pummel the ground from space. You'd have to get in close within a decent range to get that railgun off, and by then you're in range of a targeted AA system, which will have a great deal more advantage against you.
Not only that, I think if you're specifically talking about the Idris in Merlin's example, they would be, you know, landing gear deployed type of thing and slowly maneuvering in the atmosphere, and they'd be a bit more of an easy target too.
Yeah, I can imagine, like, the Idris is already fairly slow in space. What happens if you stick that in atmosphere? It's going to be like a sitting duck. Yeah. So you might be better actually operating an Idris from orbit and actually getting the fighters to come down and do your fight for you.
Exactly. But no, yeah, like if they ever do go into planetary bombardment stuff, I actually think it would also really depend on the planet's atmosphere. So maybe something like a moon that has a thinner atmosphere, maybe the bullets can get, well, not bullets, but the payload could get through. But say on a planet like Earth, where it's fiery death, it would burn up as it enters. So it really depends on what you'd be shooting. And then, you know, you could also have shielding as well to negate a lot of that. And it would really come down to the type of shots. Like, would you want to be shooting shots that are draining their batteries faster and stuff like that? So there could be some really interesting gameplay there, because instead of just, you know, they've talked about running around the ship repairing stuff, you'd be running around your station trying to maintain the shield so they can't get in. And it could be a little bit interesting gameplay there. It's something, as we're stating, could probably be explored further down the line, and they could, you know, have a new ship come in that's, you know, 5 years after launch, or what, you know, just playing.
It just shows you how much potential Star Citizen has. It's got these features which, you know, 5 years down the track, it just has so much potential. But it's as you said, it's something we'll see later. And, you know, I can imagine that, like, you know, people sending down bomber teams from Idris down the planet side escorted by fighters, and then you'd have a defense set up, you know, actually on the base trying to shoot them down, and maybe fighters taking off from the base, you know? It's like the counter.
Yeah, I'm picturing in my head a Retaliator trying to lock a torpedo.
And dropping Marines.
onto yeah, or no, I'm trying to picture it locking a torpedo onto a base to fire, and just like trying to avoid the AA gunfire at the same time. Like, it just, I don't like the Retaliator's chances.
maybe a Gladiator or an Eclipse, you know, something like that.
Yeah, a bit more nimble, but you know, imagine a Polaris too. That'd be a bit crazy. I think that'd be.
Chris M asked, we mentioned it a couple times in the last video, but I couldn't find more info. I actually posted it in the YouTube channel. We don't actually...
You should stand up and show them your shirt.
There we go. Southern Cross Alliance. I'll send you a link in the chat so you can have a good look.
Awesome.
You can talk all about that.
I don't know. I've just been sidetracked, so I'm totally lost now. But yeah, we haven't. Oh no, should we even talk about SA a little bit? I don't know. I don't know what to say there.
We don't have.
If you want to know, if you want to know any info, if you want to know any more info about it, we'll talk about it. But it's not something we like to push on people. We're not that way inclined, I don't think.
Yeah, we're not salesmen. We're not selling ourselves and the org to the highest bidder or anything.
That's not our intent.
Inforunners is a podcast we do out of love. It's something we do because we enjoy. And as soon as it's anything else, then, you know, we probably stop making episodes.
Yeah, that's it. Well, it's the main reason I keep coming back to fill in. Put it that way. So right now, what do we think the focus should be on where CIG are taking this? Like, what do we think they should be doing? Their priority, I guess it really should be, I think we've already kind of stated that with the gameplay. It needs to be gameplay rather than ground combat. But it is an area I would definitely like to see them explore further down the line. And you're not talking to me?
I'm one of those horrible people who can't do two things at the same time.
Can't multitask?
Yeah, well, I can if I've learned it. Yeah, we got the link done now. Because, you know, some people like to ask.
Cool.
Yeah, it's like, we have a long way until that foundation is complete. And basically that's covering the completion of most ships, planetary tech, wormholes, other systems, and then all the professions. So, like...
I think with 3.0, it's kind of like the technical foundation is there, but it's there's a lot of systems that still need to be added. So I think what we're kind of stating here is it's the gameplay foundation.
Well, the engineering foundation, I would say, even.
Yes, I'd agree with that too. I think it's got a lot to be added, and I don't think it'll ever truly kind of be done type thing. I think it's the type of game where they're going to keep adding professions and adding, you know, like if you look at it in a way, like a new system is going to be a lot easier to add once the tech is up and running than adding, say, farming, or like adding a new profession. And when you look at it, the difficulty in that sense, it's definitely going to be.
I think it's dangerous to say that it'll never be done, because then you get what does Star Citizen to Elite Dangerous then?
What I'm implying is it's got room to grow. I think it, like, a lot of people go, oh, feature creep, but it's the game that's got scope that you can. A game that can grow like that is really cool, especially in an MMO universe. Like, you're never ever gonna run out of things to do, because they can just make something new. They can make a whole new gameplay.
Everything that's come out so far is something that was previous promised or previous hinted that this was the direction they wanted to go. It just wasn't, when they were initially at the Kickstarter, they just didn't have the funding. They didn't have the means, the technical support, like, the Foundry 42 based engineers, and, they didn't have an entire studio, 4 studios of devs. And so, it's just a matter of when these things became available, they spread their wings further. It's because most of the stuff people say, oh, it's feature creep, like face over IP, not feature creep. That's actually inside of the stretch goals.
It is. It's one of the very first things they mentioned.
Yeah, and most of the stuff that you see outside of even Planetary tech was a stretch goal. The idea that they'd set a team to see whether it was feasible to do. The thing is, they got that team as soon as they got the Frankfurt 42 office and all the Crytek engineers. And so now that you have like 100% access to Crytek engineers that you struggled to get access from before, because they couldn't get enough of their time because Crytek wanted them, and then I booted them.
I think that's really important for a lot of people to understand. Like, though the game went into Kickstarter, it probably took at least 3 years from there to real heavy development properly started. I actually remember them like a year on after the Kickstarter. They hadn't even got their first studio properly set up, and that was in Texas when they were trying to get that one set up. I remember watching a video, they were doing studio tours, so when people say, oh, it's been 5 years, realistically, it's only been 2.
I'd say those 3 years were pre-production. They were not proper production. They were investigating how they were going to do everything they needed to do, everything, fleshing out the ideas of how they're going to do it. It's like some companies spend 3 or 5 years designing a game before they even go into full base production mode. And that 3 years should be seen in that light. And it's only been the last year and a half that they've gone into full-blown production mode. In fact, some of the tools only came online, most of the tools only came on in the last 6 to 9 months.
I also think we'll get a really good. Well, this is for me personally, like being a Formula developer. When they do the vertical, what they're going to do on a stream, to me, I would be able to give you a more realistic expectation of how that is going. But if you look at some of the ATVs that have gone across this year, we've had ones on Assumption AI, so things like, do you remember the videos of them having all the characters walking in loops and stuff?
Yes.
And the different size of the loops and stuff? That was showing me that they were working on AI, and AI is pivotal in the single-player game. Just bar none, right? We've also seen footage of them doing the cinematics and stuff like that, so we know they're working on that area. It's obviously just how far through they are through that process, and if they've got one up to fully polished level, it could be within the next 12 months that you see the beta type of thing. So at this stage, this is just speculation. I'm not the only one who's called this. I'd expect to see some form of the single player by Gamescom next year. But that's not concrete. That's me speculating automatically.
There's also the holiday live stream where they're doing the Squadron 42 base show.
What did I say? I thought I said the holiday live stream. That's what I was talking about.
You said Gamescom. It's okay though. But like,
no. I said I'd expect to see the. What I said was at the start. I'm expecting to see in the holiday live stream that'll give me an update of how far along they are, and then I'd be able to better speculate when it will come out. But at this point in time, I would speculate that I'd see it probably around Gamescom.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
some
putting money
form of
on
demo or beta.
Start at Games. holiday live stream. But yeah, as you said, I think the holiday live stream is the ability to show that all these systems they put together, the animation, the AI system, subsumption, we will truly know how far they are, because those are all those things that link in for the single player are going to come together for the first time, and we're going to see something that's going to tell us a lot.
It's hard to speculate on, purely based on the fact that they kind of had the whole game grey boxed and white boxed out, or I think it was grey or white box, I can't quite remember. But now they've gone back and added the Planetary tech in. So how many of the levels have they changed to fit that? And how much more work has that created? And that's, until I see the update, I can't make that call. But
no, the Planetary tech didn't just delay the PU by 2 years, it delayed Squadron 42 by a considerable amount as well. Because, you know, if you've got that amazing Planetary tech and you aren't using it in your single-player game, it's a huge waste.
Well, you can also carry that over, though, too. So when the first Squadron 42 is done, it'll carry faster onto the next one.
Yes.
Because the AI will be at a better level, they won't have to update it as much. You know, they'll have their level process refined.
I wouldn't be surprised if they put out episodes every 18 months, because that's sort of the work that Aaron Roberts is good at and is used to. His team is used to putting out stuff every, what, 6 to 12 months on these Lego games?
Chris Roberts stated it'll be 2 years between when the first one's released and the second one. He stated that back in Manchester CitizenCon, so that's a couple of years ago now. And yeah, that's my remembering of it. Did we see the Saber Raven flying towards the sun video leaked? I missed it. I tried to see the it got taken down like 3 or 4 times. Did you see it, Haze?
I've seen 3 of them. I'm not sure if it was one with the sun. If it was one with the bomb bays open and using the EMP, definitely.
No, it's not that one.
It's not that one.
No, we saw those ones, but we didn't see the Raven flying towards the sun. Was it any good?
I assume it was. Otherwise, you
we'll wait for him to reply on that and keep talking.
CVK Prodigy just got my Saber Raven. Congrats!
Nice.
I know a lot of people who have jumped on that bandwagon.
How was your free drive?
No, I mean, like, I've heard good things about that. I mean, Board Gamer even said it was pretty nice. I've got a ancient SSD, and I know it's not the fastest there, but I hear those drives so snappy that Windows feels completely different. You have to get used to how Windows feels all over again.
Yeah,
so
it's going to be akin to people that move to SSDs. Like if you actually install certain games, like give an example would be Battlefield, you actually get a small FPS bump because of how quickly it loads. I think at this early stage, it will eventually become a common drive. It's just that the expense will drive a lot of people away. And if you look back at SSDs, it was much the same. Until they dropped a bit in price, they didn't take off. And the other thing is Intel has a monopoly on them. So they probably won't drop in price for a long time. Because why would they drop the price when they've got no reason to?
Samsung will try to compete with them, so they will try and make the same sort of innovations that they have with regards to latencies and random writes. So, you know, I mean, give it time.
Apparently, though, they've got it's proprietary technology with the nano. I forgot the name of it. With the crisscrossing stackable RAM shit. That is a proprietary technology. So unless Samsung can make a version that's similar, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe when Intel releases their graphics card, we'll give away a capital ship. Yeah, probably. Realistically, though, that type of architecture, if you read anything on AMD or NVIDIA, they plan those things 5 years in advance. So if they're just starting to do it now, we're probably not going to see anything until 2022. So we've got a long wait. Almost just wait. Maybe Star Citizen will be out at the same time. That's right.
Speaking of Intel graphics, the new Intel and AMD working together, that's a very interesting situation. Wouldn't normally think Intel and AMD would partner up to undercut NVIDIA in laptops, so we'll see where that goes. Yeah,
I always thought if Intel and NVIDIA got together, and I always thought, never quite understood why they were not on friendly terms, but it's a lot of the business architecture, from what you've told me, is why they don't get along. They seem to turn on each other's to do.
seems to tread on a lot of people's toes, whether it be Nintendo or Apple or like Intel. They seem to really not get along well with other large companies, because there's some those companies are like, we don't want to work with you if we can avoid it, because you know.
I reckon it all comes down to dollars. I reckon AMD are more flexible in pricing. I reckon Nvidia kind of don't like to budge on their units. They're like, yeah, that's the, and I'm only speculating here, but that's the impression I get, that Nvidia probably play a really hard game when it comes to, you know, they're like, well, we can make all these chips and sell them to consumers, or we can give you this huge massive discount, but we don't get anything out of it. You get everything out of it, but we don't get shit. And I think AMD, they're the great survivor, and that's why they've played ball with people, because they had to, because otherwise they would have just gone under. Nvidia kind of didn't need to do that, but now with Intel, well, it looks like it might come, may, I'm not saying it will, come back to bite them.
I think it will, because the thing is, Intel have control over all the OEM contracts. And so if Intel pushed the product, that they're getting a bigger cut because AMD is cheaper, NVIDIA will just not have a say with regards to all the OEM sales. OEM sales are bigger than desktop.
Merlin writes, they are coming together for doubling down on mining GPU markets. I hope us gamers will benefit at some point in the higher GPU options. Yeah, I'm actually surprised AMD hasn't kind of embraced the mining stuff, to be honest. They say they all kind of, you know, for the gamers and all that, and they do out these deals, so you have to buy a motherboard and get a coupon code for a Samsung monitor, all this jazz, just so people don't buy up their AMD cards for mining. But
AMD, I understand gamers are putting down on like the new Vega GPUs and saying, oh, it's a horrible GPU, or like AMD don't know what the hell they're doing. That's not the case. AMD made a GPU that not only could do gaming, was really good at compute, was really good at professional workloads, and unfortunately for them is, in the last 2 months, probably been realized as the single best mining GPU available. I just bought 2 of them today.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is.
Get 3.
I can only afford 2 because the prices all shot up.
So good.
Like across the entire world, people and like all the retailers have found out that all the Vegas are selling out, because people are finally latching onto the idea that Vega is amazing at mining crypto. Kryptonite, yeah, which is Monroe.
Well, and, yeah, it takes a little bit of time for them to get the software right for the mining too, so that's about on par.
I think
2 months' time.
The mind share is a little slow to react. So, you know, there's some people who knew about this, like 3
I remember
months
you telling
ago.
me a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and
you told me a few weeks ago.
But it took a very long time for everyone to sort of get it in their head that, oh, this is actually an amazing thing. And so unfortunately now, Vega prices are only going to go up. And availability is going to be horrible. And I hate to tell you guys, Vega will be very successful. But not for the good reasons that we want them as gamers.
To bring this back around to Star Citizen then, do you really think that they're going to do some kind of deal down the lane with AMD in regards to graphics, or do you think it'll always be just a neutral? I think they're going to kind of go more with the Vulkan, and it'll be more neutral and across the board.
Are we talking about COG?
Yeah, COG and Star Citizen. Like,
we know they're going Vulkan. Vulkan's amazing when it's properly implemented. For AMD chips and NVIDIA chips, because it's talking directly with the hardware, which, unlike most DirectX 11 and DirectX 12 games, which is a hack of DirectX 11 for most game companies because they don't want to spend too much time re-optimizing for Vulkan, is horrible. But you got to remember, CIG has the original Crytek engineers that built the engine from the ground up. These guys are just as good as optimizing their own engine as any of the Unreal or the ID team or other people who are very, very skilled at making engines. So I expect great things, to be honest, when Vulkan comes in.
Well, you can look at the progress they've made just since they came on board, so yeah, it's quite drastic. Yeah, well, that's the other interesting thing too. It's one of the few games I've actually seen where they've had both AMD and Intel participate. And I'm surprised it wasn't in AMD's contract that they couldn't have any dealings with Intel. That really kind of surprises me. That actually went through. And obviously Intel wanted to one-up AMD, so they got a whole ship, not really just a reskin, which is what AMD got. So, yeah.
Then I think they got a lot more. They got a lot more out of this dealership compared to the AMD. What was it called? The AMD Delta? No, not Delta. Amiga. Yeah, the Mustang Amiga was a very sort of small thing. CIG was young, they were still early days. It wasn't so much of a successful project as it is now in terms of funding and how far in development they are. Intel came in and said, look, we can offer you so much more. Give us something that's actually good. Give us something appealing, and we're gonna... CIG didn't just give away 150 of those SSDs at the CitizenCon. They probably outfitted most of their development machines with those SSDs as well to help them build on their builds. They most likely paid for the entire event. CIG got tons of support both in development as well as the CitizenCon, and it was worth them to give them something that they could match, something that was appealing, and that's the Saber Raven.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. That is absolutely correct. Should we talk about the types of ground combat units we would like to see in ground combat? That was one area we didn't cover.
I'd love to see some mechs, like heavy weapon platforms that can move but are slow. But they're countered by that, in that they keep large ships completely at bay. And,
And then the counter would obviously be other ground vehicles, obviously.
Yes. You'd have to go in and sort of counter those with ground vehicles, and those large mechs, while they can move, would need to be similarly guarded and defended by other, ground units or vehicles or, things in order to try and defend that. So, and I can see that. That would be good. Flexible and dynamic.
Yeah. I think we're going to see a bit of that with the Titan suits. Definitely, like they've been mentioned, they're designed to combat the ships, but I think that there's no reason we can't see other variations of the Titan suits. So Titan suits that can take on like a tank or something like that. That'd be really cool gameplay, seeing a Titan suit jump up on a tank and Hulk smash the tank, like in the movie. If you've ever seen that, it would be pretty cool.
Mind you, I think they've already got a tank. When you look at the Prowler, and if you turn it to Gravlev only and have it actually traverse across the ground, that's got size 5 weaponries on it. That's practically a tank, heavily armored, some of the heaviest of shielding, and not to mention the huge amount of Marines it can carry. That thing is scary compared to anything else we've got at the moment. That's like nuts.
Clazer wants to see Optimus Prime. But I don't see that happening, unfortunately. But he also Magnetic 62 mentions anything on the CIG webcam yet. They did mention that, was that at the end of the year they were going to give us pricing. Actually, they were going to give us that stuff at Gamescom, but not Gamescom, CitizenCon, but they didn't. Now I think about it. Remember they said that they were, they were meant to give us... Yeah, it just slipped my mind until now too. Yeah, because I remember saying that we would see Faceware at CitizenCon, and we didn't. And, wow. Yeah, it's just flown by and no one's ever picked up on it. Yeah, good spot there, Magnetic. You've at least jogged our memory. But yeah, I guess we need to probe them a bit more and find out what's going on there. But I'd expect with a webcam of that nature, it probably wouldn't be akin to a full... price webcam, but I'd be expecting maybe $100 Australian. What do you reckon, Haze?
It depends if they want to go for something premium or something more accessible. I'd prefer accessible myself. Like, if it's real CIG and then selling the backers, they don't care about making a profit. They just want to cover costs. I mean, look at most of the merchandise we do, that they do. So, I could see $100 webcam with those very specific features. I mean, it did have some features that a normal webcam didn't have. It had very low light sort of sensitivity, so that it could pick up the face in low light. I think it was it infrared or something else built into it.
Had high frame rate, 60. I think it was a 60 frames per second camera or something like that, so it could actually pick up more details as it moved and stuff like that. And I think it was only 720, or was it 1080 or something like that. So it's not like a 4K camera or anything like that. But you can't actually use it as a webcam. It's literally designed for face tracking. Right. There's a question there from that side from Merlin that looks very much directed at you.
Okay. Guide to claiming all big ships at buyback tab over the November-December sale with a $15,000 capital ship. I laugh out loud. How does one hack this? You can buy back anything that's in your buyback list, even if it is a $1,500 capital ship. As long as you either have a token, a quarterly token for store credit, or you use new money, which you can buy back as much and as often as you want from your buyback list. You don't really need to hack this unless you want free money or something.
So sorry, I probably misunderstand his question. Is he's trying to melt one big capital ships and get lots of small ones, or is he trying to get lots of small ones and condense it into one big capital?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I didn't quite understand how he worded it. That's why I got you an answer.
If he is asking for it to melt a $1,500 ship, you need to send a concierge support ticket, and you should do it right now because they have a huge backlog. I sent a concierge support ticket about the black concierge cards that was sent out. That was over 3 weeks ago. I haven't heard back from them.
I've thought a lot more about this with the cards, and I think it's because they are really tailoring those cards at people that live nearby. It's that simple, and that's why we never saw them in 4 different time zones. We just saw them in the American UK time zone because there's people like me that are Australian that have got it, and we'll probably never ever use them, man, because we just can't, because they seem to be all pop-up parties at the developers' places. So unless I up and move, not going to happen.
That might be true. Speaking of, Senior Snake is gone to the pop-up party today. That
oh, he did. That's right.
Yes.
I forgot about that.
And he's
we'll have to grill him next time.
No, he's decided to do a recording with him as host, and so if possible, if Snake didn't cut and run on us again, we may actually host that on the channel.
Why do I get the feeling, being Snake, he'll conveniently forget? But let's hope I'm wrong.
Let's see if he kept up to his word. We'll find out.
Likewise.
Check out in a couple of days, maybe.
Yeah. So Alberto Martini said they're doing 2 different versions of the webcam there, 720p and 1080p at 60 or 30 equivalently, and then Ticonderoga. There's a ship in Star Trek called Ticonderoga. Reminds me of that. Anyway, do you think the Banner Defender will be on sale? Which single-seat fighter would you choose? The Hurricane, the Superpoint, the Sabre, or the Defender, or maybe the Vanguard? I'd be really surprised if the alien ships are not on sale, but now I think about it, none of them are listed there. Maybe that's the other ships that are on the last day of the sale. Do you reckon that's where they'd fall under? I'd assume.
It's a good question. I don't think that they will not sell it because it's the anniversary sale, and it's the more complete sale compared to the holiday sale. So I definitely think it will be sold on at least the last day, and maybe on one of the other days that we haven't figured out. I don't know. Maybe they stuck it in with MISC. Wait, no, that's Xeon tech. No, that doesn't work.
I'm just opening the website now, and on the schedule, there it is. Alien ships on the 26th. So November the 26th will be. It says ground vehicles and alien ships. So that answers your question. Hands down, if it's not for sale, I'd be really, really surprised. Banner Defender. What was it like?
I go for the Banner Defender. Yeah. Banner Defender. If I was going to pick out of that list of ships, I'd definitely go the Banner Defender.
I'm in agreement with him. And to be honest, if you can't tell, it's like Haze's favorite ship.
Yeah. I'm sitting in one
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you my reasoning is, it's like a Super Hornet, only it's longer ranged, and it has all the same size guns, and excellent cockpit visibility. And so
Well, we don't know about that yet, but they're going to redo it, hopefully. But
I'm hoping they get that right. But the thing is, just like the Super Hornet, you have the co-pilot. Co-pilot can actually access all the guns. He can actually... So you can have dedicated gunner and pilot, which is beautiful on ships that have that ability, like the Gladiator and the Super Hornet and the Freelancer. Ships that allow someone with a mouse to fire and basically someone with a dedicated flight equipment to fly. Because at the end of the day, they will be superior to anyone who's trying to balance both.
Yeah, Alberto's kind of stating it's not a solo ship, but the thing is, I think you'll still be able to use it as a solo ship. Like, there's no reasoning. They've stated in most cases, even a really large ship like an Idris, you could use solo. You just either need AI or it takes you longer to do things. So I don't see it really being a problem, the Defender. And the thing I like about it is that it also has a bit of cargo. It's a bit larger. It's got a bed in it. It's none of the other fighters have beds, to my knowledge. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's the only superiority fighter that has beds, and not just
it's
beds plural.
It's got it's got everything. It's got long range. It's got it's got sniper guns on it if you want it. It's probably the best all round ship that there is. In my opinion, and it's, as you said, it's got similar guns to the Sabre. I think it's got exactly the same hardpoints that the Sabre has currently. It is slightly larger. Banu are known for having the best. They don't have very many ships, but they have the best. So I would not be surprised if and by stating the best, even using the Banu as an example, it is not the one that holds the most cargo or the one that is the fastest, but it is the one that does a lot of things really, really well. And I think that makes for a really good ship because it's more flexible. So if you take something like the Super Hornet, yeah, it's a bit tanky, but it won't maneuver as well. So therefore, the Sabre might be better in that regard. But then if you get something like the Banu, because it does so many different the Defender, things well, it's more adaptable to more situations, and therefore it's more likely to survive going into something that it doesn't know what it's going into. And let's be honest, that's most of the time when you go into something, you don't know what you're going into.
I'd say the Defender on paper is the best well-rounded fighter that isn't also other things that aren't fighter. I wish they'd make more ships like that. It's beautiful.
Some Grim Jim 666 has said, you think the Defender will be able to dock with the Merchantman? And you and I have talked this about before, so I'll let you answer this one.
I think that they grew it to 160 or 165 meters, and they reduced the cargo, and like the old 100-meter Banu Merchantman had enough room to fit 5k SCU of cargo. They worked it out on the forums many times over in diagrams and measured it out. So they reduced the cargo, increased the size of the ship in such a way that you have up to 3 times the internal space. I don't think they did that just because the NPC metrics were completely flawed. I think they have had to add other systems because otherwise they wouldn't have reduced the cargo. I do think they did that to make the Hull C more of an attractive alternative, but at the end of the day, you've got a ship the size of a Polaris, and you've got more than enough room to fit more than 3,500 SCU of cargo, and a ship like the Polaris has a huge amount of metric space for rooms and like a brig and barracks and everything else, and the Banu doesn't need that many crew. At the end of the day, it sounds like they put it in a hangar. Especially when you compare that to a Polaris, which has dedicated space for the torpedoes, the crew, and the hangar already.
I agree. I originally was suspecting, how it's kind of, the Banu is almost as wide as it is long. I was expecting to see the Defender kind of lodge in underneath the wing and just be almost like what's that show, Battlestar Galactica, where they drop off the Cylon ships, something like that, where it's parked sideways along the wing, and it just you can run into the back of the Defender from the ship. It docks like that, and then just drops off and flies off. Would be really cool. But obviously it's changed. Question here by Merlin, real quick, before it drops off the bottom of the screen. Have you heard anyone melting a Pioneer War Bond and able to buy it back with all the items? All other limited ships will post as ships models land claim be gone when you buy the back. And I can answer that now. It's gone off the screen. Is yes, they all come back because I've done it myself with other ships. So I assume the assumption would be exactly the same for the Prime.
Anything that's actually attached as part of the ship is a physical part of that pack. That that ship concept. So anything you melt it will come back exactly like you left it. Even the war bond price.
Yeah. You're basically buying packages, not individual ships. That's basically how the whole system works on the website. So once you get your head around that, you can kind of learn how to exploit the system. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I kind of agree. Getting back to the Defender real quick, Mr. V has just said, as long as we can stay out of it, the Defender will be great. And that is my only concern with that ship. You and I talked about this on point. There's so many different ways they can fix that. And I think it was almost a bit insulting to CIG's intelligence that that's not something that they would fix.
Taekwondo asks, a practical question for the sale. If you have a limited budget, would you rather buy one big ship or two smaller ships? Big ships are better investment, right?
Yes, in short.
Short answer is yes. Big ship is probably going to be worth several times more than both of those two ships combined for the smaller ones. So but the thing is, what are you going to play with until then? If you can buy one big ship, keep it in melt, and then melt that down and buy two smaller ships so you can play with them until we go into full beta release, and then just save one buyback token to that so you can melt the two smaller ships and then have that large ship in your buyback and unmelt it when the time comes. You get the best of both worlds then, don't you?
Yeah.
That's the most intelligent way to use what you already have and stretch it as far as you can.
Yeah, that's the advantage of this sale too, is because they show every ship over the course of the first half of the week. So say, the two ships you want are on the first day, the big ship you want is on the third or fourth day. You need to get the big one, then melt it, then buy the two small ones. It's all right, because at the last day you've got that day where you can buy all the ships you want. So you've just got to plan what you're going to do, look at the ship schedule, and go, well, this is my plan, and stick to it.
Like we've done in one of our very first episodes, it's more than likely in like a week or two you can earn that small fighter or those smaller ships, and but that big larger ship may be a serious time investment. A month or two, maybe more, depending on whether you're a casual or a full-time player who loves to slug it out very quickly. At the end of the day, it's for release, big ship, but in the meantime, use those credits to buy those two smaller ships, have fun with them. Release comes along, melt them back, and buy back that big ship that you've kept purposely in place for when you needed it.
I think both Haze and I can give you multiple examples of what we're doing in that regard. So to give you an example that Haze and I only talked about yesterday was land vehicles. I have every single one of them, as does Haze, but we probably are maybe at best only going to keep one of them on launch. But we want to try them all, so we've picked them all up and we're going to try them, and then we'll turn them into something bigger and larger.
It's sort of like I've got maybe 4 to 5 Tumbril Cyclones and a bunch of Rovers and Dragonflies and Noxes and X1s. I do not plan on keeping all of those. I will keep one. But I'm going to use all those extra ships to do training operations in the org. So that, if we want 10 land vehicles to go off and do a land fight sometime, we're going to have those at our disposal so we can have fun. But at the end of the day, I have no plans to keep more than a personal transport vehicle of some sort.
CVK Prodigy asks, do you think the Saber-Raven will remain at too much insurance, or they make a way to get LTI onto it? They never did that with the AMD accelerated Must Driver ship. I think the fact that it's a limited ship, it is really up to you to keep that thing with insurance on it. If you want to keep it, you're going to have to look after it. It's that simple. You're getting a ship that no one else has access to. I'm starting to speculate with the way things are going. I don't even think you'll be able to buy that ship in-game 5 years down the track. I think it'll be 100% exclusive to Intel forever with the way things have gone. And, I think the only... Dyson really wants one, doesn't he, Haze? And he uses the Avenger a lot. Yeah, he's a student, so he can't afford one.
Yeah. He loves the Warlock to death and punking people. with the EMP blast. So he's drooling over the Saber Raven.
Maybe we should start a little gun what do you call it, GoFundMe, and see if we can get him a drive. That'd be really cool. Maybe we even find someone really nice that's happy to give him $200 on part with just a ship for him. But I'd like to see if we could get that for him, because I know for a fact that he is very good with the Warlock, and I think if anyone was ever going to use the Saber, it would be him. And you and I both know of one person in particular, not looking at anyone's snake, that probably is not going to use it as much as Dyson will, which is kind of ironic. But yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how we go. Dyson's a real stickler for gifts. He doesn't like accepting.
No, he doesn't like
money and paying for things.
We helped like put his. He got a new PC within the last 6 months, and he was really wanting to. Like, he insisted on paying me credits in RSI for helping him, and I didn't mind helping him for free or anything like that. But he's very insistent. So yeah.
Alberto.
I'm just going to say, when we run out of questions here, we're probably going to wrap up. So if you've got any questions, ask them now. But yeah, go with Alberto's question.
Alberto asks, I have the Explorer pack and comes with a Carrack and a Terrapin. Should I grab an even smaller Explorer like the 315P or Mustang Beta, since the Terrapin currently has 0 cargo? Technically, the Terrapin can take unsecured cargo, and it probably has more room for unsecured cargo than secured cargo for the 315P, and it certainly has more cargo than the Mustang Beta in like actual space, until you think about that store all box it can store underneath. So if you're afraid of not having cargo, Terrapin can take light cargo, but then if you're really interested in moving a lot of cargo, that Carrack has got you covered anyway. So yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about that.
Me and Haze have talked about Terrapin a lot in our outside the show discussions. Secretly, I think we would safely both say that it is a secret little gem. We highly believe that it is going to be one of the best ships in the game. And especially on the first couple of days, like if you're going out with your Orion or your Reclaim or whatever ship of your profession that you've chosen, you need to find stuff. It's just that simple, and it is going to be probably the easiest ship to go find stuff with. It's going to be a lot easier than getting a whole crew together to take out, say, a Carrack to find stuff. That you can just take out a small crew and a Terrapin, and and not only is it just a scouting ship, but it's also a scouting ship for that you'll use in combat as well. So because it's rather tanky, you can send it in front of the fleet, find out what's going on, do your quick scout, and get the hell out. Now, if you were to do that, say something like a Xian Scout, it's probably going to die. So yeah, I find it a really strong ship, and it's a ship, like, put it this way, when it first came out, I wasn't sold on it, but this man here, he sold me on it. I own one because he sold me on it. So if you need someone to sell you on a Terrapin, it'll be Haze. But I've also said this, I think it was only on the last show we talked about, any ship that's kind of under $150 is kind of redundant, with the exception of ships that have a specialized task, and I think the only one we can think of is the Reliance N. So, they're all going to... Terrapin's not a ship that will become redundant. I think it's a ship that is... it's very strong.
Always see use. People are going to be like, have you got a Terrapin? We need to scout, or we need to take this with us mining, or we need to do... at the end of the day, it's one of those ships that fits into every single scenario, and there's not many ships that can compete with it. It's one of those ships that will always see love and always be appreciated.
You've got the chat window on your screen. We just had a question go off the screen, man. So you've got the chat window. I can't see it. I've got the same thing that you guys are seeing. So whatever you guys see, I see. But
Merlin asks, would you rather buy a 5-year LTI ship and melt for later buyback versus purchase multiple LTI token ships and buy the CCU and melt those CCU? If you can make an LTI token and CCU it to the same ship, and it's not costing you any more money, why not go for it? Why not do that? It's like it's something for free. Although I have to understand it's less flexible. I understand that. And if the price goes up, you've got that risk. So, at the end of the day, I suppose you could do both. Why not do both?
Oh, wow.
That's
something... Sorry, just something really interesting that Mr. Veil said there in chat. that's going to change. And another question's got screen. But he said EMP weapons on the Raven will be in 3.0 and can be mounted on a saber. So theoretically, that makes the Intel Saber Raven basically akin to the. Do you remember this? The 3D skin they kind of sold. I can't remember what it's called. It was only for sale for
Saber
1 day
Comet.
for the Hornet.
Oh, you're talking about the Wildfire. Oh, the F7A mod kit.
That one. Yeah. Yeah, so it's going to be akin to that. So it's basically a skin that changes the 3D model. That's basically what it is. It's a whole new look, but it's basically just a 3D model, and that's akin to what that'll be then. That's not so bad then. If you can take a normal saber and put EMPs on it, I'm happy with that. I can live with that. That's awesome.
Wayne
what was
asked,
the question?
You think the retaliate modules go back into the store? I really don't. They've moved away from box. They were reluctant to put the Endeavour modules in. I think...
I think we may, because we have seen them at previous sales, but they are having a restructure, so that's a hard one to call. I can tell you, though, for a fact that they have put them in the store previously. That doesn't mean they'll do it again, though. But it sounds like we might see a revamped. I'm even expecting them to see... they said they're not going to sell the BUKs anymore either, but modules seem to be something that they may have to sell. It's just the way the ships are. Like it's why I have a Caterpillar, and I want to know what the modules are. But if it's just going to only ever be cargo, then I probably won't keep the Caterpillar in its current state.
I think people are crazy for modules, and CIG knows this. I think they're just not ready for them, and so they don't want to sell these promises until they're ready for it. So I think they're reluctant to sell these during the sales right at this moment. It doesn't mean that they won't start selling them once they actually flesh out those systems.
Merlin asks, do you think it can be cost-effective to purchase a pack with as many ships plus $1,000 LTI and see the ships that you don't need to one that you want, end up with all the ships you want plus a pack discount plus LTI? That obviously comes down to finding the pack that suits your needs. And that's an individual thing. So... You have to answer your own question there, Mel.
If the pack discount is decent, then yeah, by all means go for it. Just remember that is very inflexible. If you want to change one ship or melt one of the ships, you have to melt them all. And
how many ships do you have in a pack yourself, Haze?
Too many. Too many.
I had none.
I don't talk. Don't get me started on packs and the nightmare it is.
All my ship discounts come from the fact that I was here since pretty much day one. So I have I have the original Starfarer and stuff like that. So all my discounts, like my Caterpillar, came from an Aurora pack. So it's $45 cheaper than a normal Caterpillar and things like that, because I was here from the beginning. So it's kind of the nature of the beast. The longer you're here, the more money you save. And that's the same thing. Like, if you've seen the Starfarer now the Starfarer is double the price of when I brought it. I got it for $175. It's now $350 US.
This is the problem I'm in, though. Like, I once made the wrong CCU on a very large pack, and it's just something you can't undo.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of like I was so down for it. I was like, I can't believe I just did that. It's like
if you
so
contact them, sometimes they will undo it if you generally tell them you've made a mistake. I've had them undo one for me, but they really don't like doing it. But if you beg and plead, you can probably get it done. That's not saying everyone should go hassle them. I got it taken off. I can't remember which one it was, but I got one taken off. But you know, I'm concierge level, and I'm sure you would be too. They're more inclined to help you if you spend a fair bit of cash. Right, any more questions?
Wayne asks, to explore, yes, Aquila is better, but to discover? I'm not sure. The scanner and the Terrapin are probably better. Well, the Terrapin is one of those ships that's best suited to act as a team with other ships. I see the Aquila as something as the lone scout that does it alone, because it has all those facilities and things that need. But like, what if you take a Terrapin along with a ship that is going to directly use the services that you're providing? I mean, whether it's Orion and you're finding the ore while it mines, or if you're a reclaimer and you find the salvage and then it picks up the salvage. I think it's a much better scaled solution to team up with other ships.
Agreed. And also, you're looking at a bigger ship versus a smaller ship, and they seem to be about on point with their scanning tech. And I'm not even going into the stats there, because I actually think the Terrapin's got 2 utility hard points, and where the Constellation's only got one, Aquila's only got the one on top. And you look at the Aquila and go, well, it's designed for ground exploration on a planet versus the Terrapin, which is clearly designed for scanning. I think that's a no-brainer. The small versus large, the cheaper to run, even without going into other things, beats it in that department.
Okay, Merlin asks, buyback CCU say P72 to Carrick 320. Actually, I think it's worth 320 if you do it that way. If the Carrick increases in price to 500, can I still use the same CCU, or will it cost me 470? Yes. But that depends. Yes. If you've still got that CCU and melt, the price increase to unmelt it increases. But if you've got it at a hangar, the price will maintain and stay the same, regardless of the price increase. Yeah. So you're at risk if it's in melt. CCUs in melt will change price. But if you've actually got the CCU waiting in your hangar, in other words, it's got a monetary value attached to it, it's locked in and it will never change.
I've got about 4 different ships that are in what I'd call a line of upgrades. So to give an example, I've got a Freelancer with an upgrade to a DUR, with an upgrade to a Xian Scout, with a Xian Scout to a Terrapin. So literally, I could turn that into any ship I want. And then I've got other ones that go other ways as well. So depending on what ship I want at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to have a Scout now, but I wanted a Scout for a while. So now I can, when I'm having fun with my Freelancer right now, especially with 3.0 and cargo, but do I want to be a DUR? I've given him multiple options, and so if you set a couple up that way and give yourself a bit of flexibility, you might even be able to crisscross them a bit as well. It does cost you a little bit extra money, but at the end of the day, I'll be able to melt just by one ship before the game comes out, and the rest I'll turn into credits, I'm pretty sure. That's what we're going to do.
Tuba Greg asks, have we heard any further info on the largest ship that will be able to fly through the smallest wormhole? I.e., any reason to keep a Freelancer? Freelancer is, and I've asked Chris this personally when I interviewed him years ago, so it may have changed, but the last word on it, the literal last word was 3 or 4 years ago, was the Freelancer is the largest ship that can go through the smallest wormhole. And that is the advantage of the DUR over some of the larger ships. The thing is, the scale of these ships have continually grown, just like the feature creep of everything else. I wouldn't be surprised if there were more than 3 different sizes of wormhole now. So, the thing is, I think something has to give, something has to change. Either what the sizes and what ships fit through wormholes, or maybe there is no one-size wormhole and each one is slightly different.
The confusion kind of lies in the way they've named them, because you've got small, medium, and large wormholes. Then you've got small, medium, large, and capital ships, where a large wormhole is for capital ships, where a medium wormhole can fit large ships. I'd almost like to see them rename the wormhole sizes to be akin to the ship size, just for confusion's sake. So capital, class, large, and medium.
I think it's also something that even after they implement wormholes, it'll be entirely subject to balance. They may find that this didn't work out the way they thought, and it'll be subject to change. So it's one of those unfortunate things that we'd love to be able to predict and answer. In fact, I did a whole episode on this and predictions, but until we work out their specifics and the gameplay that they want out of those systems, everything is going to be subject to change.
Yeah, just a quick note, if you Google Star Citizen Wormhole, you get a really cool video of the very first time they showed off wormholes. So just chuck it into Google. And it's very old now, it's about 3 or 4 years old, but you can still see it if you haven't seen it before. Towdren stated here, I got a 600i Explorer to go with my Reclaimer. I'll let you answer that one, because you know what my response is going to be.
I actually really like the 600i. It has grown on me since the sale. In fact, Ben promised that they would do an updated Q&A on the 600i. And if it's going to happen anytime, it's going to happen during this sale. So I would love to be shown something about this turnaround, because let's face it, that Q&A was a mess. We critiqued that, unfortunately, very accurately. But since then, great things have happened to that ship. I mean, look, it's 90 meters now. Terrapin, it was, he got that right when he judged that it was 90 meters. And it's like, the people who were doing marketing at the time couldn't even get that right. So, you know, at the end of the day, I think it's one of those little gems that that was rough, and they just didn't shine it up and even try to give it a good sale. So
yeah, I'm still not sold on, and it's not the ship itself. My point is the luxury tax. It's almost akin to the alien tax, and unless it's changing me physically sitting here in my seat playing the game, I can't see why I should pay for that. It's just different pixels. I don't get it, and
that
I think
view. Those pixels are beautiful. That's going to be an experience.
I have no doubt that the Origin ships are going to be very good looking, but I'm not prepared to, and I don't think most people, are prepared to pay extra for Origin ships. In fact, they're my least liked manufacturer, but that's just me personally. You can love them. I've got friends that got 890 jumps, and that's their favorite ship. That's their thing. I just don't understand it personally. That's me.
It's sort of like with the Q&A, they hit rock bottom, right? And now they have all the potential to raise the bar. I'm going to leave it there.
Haze might about answer to me. Taekwondo asked, standalone ships melt will not change their price if the price gets increased to unmelt right now. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't, because but CCUs do.
Yep. Standalone ships will always maintain their price and melt. Cross-chassis upgrades are always dependent on what the current price is when they unmelt. Even to the point where they can reduce in price if one of the ships, below it goes up in price.
Yeah. I've got a Redeemer sitting in buyback in case they fix that. Someone asked that earlier too. Will the Redeemer be on sale? And I forgot about it. Forgot to answer it. But no, probably not.
No,
don't think so. I don't think it'll be back on sale till after its rework.
It's in the too hard and too embarrassing bucket, and they are just not going to touch it until they get some other shit in order. So
I'm just saying goodbye to Wayne. He's off to see Wayne. That ship review thing, the Anvil, I see Scout, the Carrack. You have other guesses? No, I think it's definitely that. That's my top guess. Other people said it's a fighter, but there's no guns on it. You go look at the image.
Some people said it's a bomber as well, and it does not look like a bomber. Some people made predictions of a bomber.
When they've got the Gladiator? What?
Well,
I think that's too much of a stretch.
I don't think they need another bomber right at the moment. The thing is, CAG they've got all the bombers they need at the moment over different manufacturers. I don't think, and they promised they wouldn't put out military ships for the rest of the year. I think a bomber's too much of a stretch. Yeah.
Talduran is noting here, if you read the jump point for the 600i, it paints the 600i Explorer in a completely different light. Yeah, I think you're right. You've stated multiple times, Disco kind of stuffed up because Ben was away getting his eye fixed. So I think that kind of why the Q&A needs to be redone, in short, not to go over that too much again, but yeah. And also another one by Talduran, Ben stated that luxury opens up gameplay that luxury ships won't have access, other non-luxury ships won't have access to. That is also correct, which is... We haven't seen that gameplay though, so I can picture what reclaiming is going to be like, or salvaging. I can picture what mining is going to be like. How the fuck do you picture luxury? What is that? It's
a tax. Didn't you know?
What, I get to wear fancy necklaces?
No. They get to take more cash out of your wallet when you buy the ship.
Oh yeah, okay,
it's like that's luxury. Gecko asks, will the Polaris be sold with LTI this year? If you buy a CCU and apply it to an LTI token, yes. Otherwise, it's 5-year. 5-year insurance for anyone who not willing to invest in an LTI token, basically.
Yeah. Merlin 007 asks again, if you were not into fighting, what one current military ship would you get just to cover all military aspects of the game? His example would be the Polaris.
He's right. I can't argue with
agree.
That. That's the only do-it-all military ship that they have, and it's reasonably crude.
It's the cheapest capital. People are not going to stuff with it. It can punch way above its weight because of its torpedoes. You can... we've speculated on this before. I don't know if we've said it on the show, but one of the things we've talked about is going out as an org with a bunch of Orions, a couple of Terrapins, a Polaris, and a fleet of fighters, and the fighters can dock on the Polaris and just refuel and use it as a refueling station and, you know, stuff like that. I think that is, like, a lot of people look at the Polaris and go, it's half the ship's a freaking hangar, but they don't see the benefit of the hangar. That is going to be a huge benefit to be able to dock. It's akin to being able to take a Crucible with you. That ship is almost a Crucible, but a bit small. Like, it doesn't do the big ships; it just does the little ships.
It's not going to be able to
Crucible with a Retaliator all in one.
It can't manufacture the parts, but like you can keep all the spare parts in your cargo and swap them out willy nilly. So, like at the end of the day, the Polaris merges a support craft with a long-range patrol with tactical-based equipment, and you know, there's very few ships that manage to do so many things well. It's sort of like a Retaliator. It can do more than one role and still be a master of several different areas. It's
also got a fairly large cargo hold, though, just to
200 SCU cargo is nothing to sneeze at. Yeah.
Will the Polaris be sold with LTI this year?
We answered that already.
That's a really interesting question. I can't remember, but I don't know. It is a capital ship, but because a lot of the other capital ships come with LTI, but probably not. I don't know.
No, a Polaris is under $1,000.
There you go.
Like, I answered this just before. It's like, if you want LTI, use an LTI token and CC to that ship. If you want to just buy it as a concept, you can buy back later. You're going to have to settle for 5-year insurance.
Can you just read the question that went off the screen from Talderan about the Xian Scout? Because I like that ship, and I think it's really underrated. Can you just read it? Because I want to answer it. I was halfway through reading it. Cartel AL, he called it.
Will the Car2L be added to the too embarrassed to difficult bucket? Half the concept literally didn't make it into the final ship. I think there's scope to add another 2 weapons so that it doesn't feel like a snub in Arena Commander with regards to firepower. So I think putting on another 2 size 2 weapons that are gimbaled is not too far of a call. I don't know why they've taken so long to balance that. It's like embarrassing.
Look, I've stated this before on the show, and I'll state it again. I've speculated for over 2.5 years now what that ship is. That ship is the Wormhole navigation ship. It is highly maneuverable. If you get into it and actually try and fly around figure eights of the rings on Port Alisar, there is no ship that comes close to maneuverability. It just shits on anything, right? It's not designed for combat. It is designed for navigating wormholes, getting through, and they've stated previously that the better run you get through a wormhole, the cheaper it will be for people to go through. So more people are more likely to buy your navigation maps through a wormhole because it'll cost them less to get through. So the most efficient routes are going to be the ones. So there are going to be people that have a Xian Scout, they go out there and they will navigate that thing perfectly to a T. Like you see in racing, you know, you see those people that they get their time shorter and shorter and shorter. It's going to be exactly the same thing, but in a wormhole. And people, so they're tailoring to those people so they have a job. And I believe it or not, that's what I reckon that ship will be.
If you look at the lore of their Xian Scout, it's supposed to be an actual like light fighter for the Xian, but it's sold with a cut down, less weapons stock standard because they're afraid of, you know, giving too powerful a ship to the humans.
To humans, yep.
Yes, basically, because it's been reconfigured for human use. It's not normally control system that, you know, humans can interact with or even use or understand. So I think hopefully in future, instead of being a glorified maybe little scout, or maybe being a glorified personal transport ship or a racer, sort of, they will actually give it the proper weaponry or the ability to upgrade the proper weaponry so it can be used in the role that it was designed for. Because I think it's very disingenuous. I think it's a mistake that they have made such an absolutely beautiful and lovely ship and essentially made it so that any serious pilot in Arena Commander or anyone who wants to do combat is very much underwhelmed by it.
I think it'll definitely get touched up when they come back around to do other Xian ships and maybe possibly variants. I think they've kind of heard the complaints loud and clear that one of the seats were taken out as well. But they did state that they may do a variant down the line, so we'll have to wait and see. But I do think it'll be a ship that is a very niche role, and that is the biggest problem with it. Also, that combined with the alien tax pisses a lot of people off.
Merlin asked about the CCU price again going into Melt. If you do a P72 to Orion CCU and you leave it in your Melt pile and the price goes up, that price, you have to buy it back at the new price. It only maintains that CCU price if it's in your hangar and it has a real value attached to it. So yeah.
So you'll find there are a lot of people holding onto CCUs particularly for that reason, and you'll find that, like, I think the last check I had about $235 just in CCUs.
It's not safe to keep CCUs in your Melt pile at all.
And that'll probably turn in, like, if I, like, say tomorrow I decided to consolidate and I'm never going to change my mind type thing, I'll probably melt all those, add $50 and buy back the Redeemer. That's probably the type of thing, something of that nature.
Gecko asked, do you think the Polaris will be able to destroy an Idris or Javelin by itself?
What was that? What was that? Sorry, what ship? Echo?
A Gecko.
The Gecko? What's the Gecko?
Yeah. X-Gecko XX. It's a guy. There's a guy in the chat. But he says, do you think the Polaris is able to destroy an Idris or Javelin by itself?
No. Oh, the Polaris will be able to kill a Javelin. Right. No, it was the ship. I thought it was a ship called the Gecko. I didn't know what you were talking about.
Do I think it can kill an Idris? I really don't think so. I think it will be able to maybe damage it a bit, take down the shields. But you figure this Idris has torpedoes of its own. What happens when it finally goes full circle and lets off its railgun and several fighters and bombers come out and start attacking you? You just got to do a hit and run? And then
if you were saying an empty Idris versus a Polaris, yeah, maybe. But as soon as you start putting fighters in the mix, no.
Yeah, no. But and then you'd say, oh, what about a Javelin? Are you forgetting the Javelin has size 12 torpedoes now? And like 78 of those suckers? It outranges you.
That said, though, I don't think the Polaris is the type of ship that's going to get torpedoed. I think it's way too maneuverable for the other capital ships, but that's just my speculation. I think the real advantage of the Polaris will be its maneuverability and its torpedoes on the other capital ships. I think the way a Polaris will probably work, and you can correct me if you think I'm wrong here, will be maneuvering and disabling rather than destroying. Well, I think it'll be like a strike craft. It'll come in, release a volley of torpedoes, do a bunch of damage, get out of there, and maybe come in for another pass. It won't stay around because it'll get its ass handed to it.
I think it's personally the ideal ship to actually sideline troops in the middle of another battle due to its speed and its ability to actually attack from the side when they're actually already engaged, so they will have very limited opportunity to either intercept or even try to go after it at that point. So at the end of the day, pincer moves, the Polaris is like the master of that when combined with other large ships that are, part of the fleet.
Would you say that, sorry I'm interrupting, but would you say the gameplay is a little bit kind of like the Hurricane with the strafing?
I'm not sure what to expect from the Hurricane at the moment. It's interesting.
No, sorry. The Polaris will play a little bit like the Hurricane, but in a capital ship. As in the movement of the Polaris will be akin to a drive-by.
I think it's one of those ships that doesn't want to stay in the firefight. It wants to fire, then reposition. It's one of those sort of ships. As soon as you start getting actual fire and flak, you probably want to be repositioning and having someone else hold that position for you. Because doesn't have good shields for a capital. Its speed is its only real asset along with its actual guns. So I think it really is one of the, it's like a cavalry. You got to use it appropriately.
Someone just asked a question that I want to answer, and it always goes just off the screen as we get to it. But he was asking a question about, we speculated on last time I was on the show, about at the end of Squadron 42 that there'll be a ship available, and he said it's an F7A military variant. I'm actually speculating that's the F8 Lightning, because they've said it'll never be available for sale, but it'll be in Squadron 42. And if you think about it, it's probably better than the F7A Hornet. And the reason why they're keeping it and never ever selling it is so everyone can get it for free, as an encouragement to finish the Squadron 42 single-player campaign. Hope that answers your question.
Ty Condero asked, if you buy a big ship as your only starter ship, such as the Banu Merchantman or the Carrack, will the operating costs not cripple you a lot? Now, COG have often said that they want even the big ships to be able to afford to be able to run missions. They may not be as profitable if you're soloing it, or if you have a huge NPC crew, as opposed to bringing lots of actual players who can play better. But they have not said that the cost will cripple you. They have said very much that that's not the case. You should be able to run cost neutral, at least.
I would expect that there would be some really easy way to fix this, and that would be that if you have a big ship, they give you enough ship credits at the start when the game launches to maintain that for 1 or 2 missions, and that they would have to scale that accordingly for the ship that you have. I think it's the only thing that makes sense. It's something they've probably never talked about, but it would be a very simple thing to implement, and I think anyone would kind of agree that it's the only fair way to go about it. Some people with smaller ships may get salty because that big person with the Idris has just been given a shitloads of free credits, but it's the only way you could make it for people that have one ship to do that.
Fractal asked, Tumbril APC vehicle? That's sort of what the APC is. What do we call those again?
Ursa.
The Ursa Rover. That's an APC. Yeah. It's you know it's got your gun. You can fire when you let them out. You can fit 4 people in the back and 2 in the front. That's pretty much an APC.
Yeah, I'm kind of speculating that they said we'll see another Tumbril vehicle by the end of the year, right? They've also stated that we could. They said 2 ships, and then they retracted it and said ships or ground vehicles after they said 2. So I'm actually speculating that the tank will be sold on the day that the ground vehicles are sold. So I think it was the 24th, same day as the... Excuse me, I've got really bad hiccups. Same day as the Tumbril, and the ground vehicle and alien sale on the 24th. So I'm expecting that we'll see that then, and obviously on the first day of the sale, I reckon we'll see the Pisces. That's just my speculation. What do you think about that, Haze? With them having stated that we will see the tank by the end of the year. So it's either here or the live sale, so take your pick. There's only 2 places it's going to land.
I want a tank. Everyone wants a tank. Everyone really wants a tank, but CIG then have to commit to that level of gameplay.
I think quite honestly...
I don't think they want that yet.
I don't think they'll have a hover tank. I think it'll just be a tank with a tread. And quite honestly, I've seen enough hover tanks to be over them, to be honest. I'd just like a nice standard tank. If anything, I'd like it to have a really cool... You know the turret part of a tank? I'd like that to be unique. I'd like it to be something really cool, because they always have this hover body and they concentrate on the body, and the turret's always the same. I'd like to see them do something. And if you did the variants, you could have an AA variant that's just like got heaps of missiles, and then you could have like a double-headed variant that's got 2 turrets that face in opposite directions or something. I got no idea, but
the point is, did a heavy platform, right? And that heavy platform could do cargo, or it could have a mining drill laser thing on it, or you could do some other sort of utility thing, and then do a heavy weapons platform as one of the other variants. Then it has a multiple use case scenario. That sounds all right.
No, I agree with that. I said that earlier in the show. I want to see some more vehicles with utility, because at the moment it's kind of lacking. They're basically like ships on the ground, and I just find that really uninspired at this point.
Ty Condera says, I heard some speculation by others that with complete Squadron 42, you might be able to earn the F7A military version. What is your view on this? That actually was leaked by a CIG employee at one point, that completing Squadron 42 would unlock the ability to perhaps get the F7A. So that's not speculation. That's an old data that's been leaked.
That's the one I talked about just before, man, when I was saying I reckon it'll be the F8 Lightning instead, so I can't answer that already. There's another question there by Gecko on the screen, or have you got more that have slid off the screen?
No, go ahead.
This is by Gecko again. What do you guys think it would take to destroy a Bengal carrier? It's massive and it has a belly-mounted turret, really the size of the Idris itself.
The builds and maintaining and running it, I think that would kill it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much to speculate on there, man. It'd probably be a fleet of capitals. There's an image I showed Haze and Snake during the week, and it actually shows, you pro guys would have seen it, there's a ship scale image that comes out every couple of months, and it's literally got the Bengal in the background, and it literally is almost as big as all the other ships combined, to the point that it's about 2 javelins long and about a javelin wide. It's quite crazy.
Entropy93 asks, is it possible to create an account using your referral code, spend $40 a ship, and gift it back to your main account to get more referrals? It's absolutely possible. CIG probably don't want to hear that, but the thing is, when you buy something on a new account, there's a 1 month time period before you can gift that back. Make sure you're aware of that. But otherwise, yes, that certainly does work.
Isn't that how you got your kitty?
Didn't hear it from me.
No, didn't hear it. Ticonderoga. Oh man, that name just doesn't roll off my tongue at all. Ticonderoga. How much do you estimate that it will be able to improve the ship's aftermarket with component upgrades? Can a standard FC7C be upgraded to almost, except for the second seat, to a Super Hornet? Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. That's a no-brainer. That's what this game's about. Giving you the opportunity to modify
I believe
them to your playstyle.
And they're going very much away from variants being hull different these days. They still have a couple of them, but I mean, look at that Starfarer. It's like they've almost equalized that out. I imagine the Freelancers would be very similar in that respect, and the Cutlasses will share a similar sort of thing. So, but yeah.
Talderan also asks, with 3.1 releasing the Vanguard Harvino, do you think CG would take the opportunity to redo that ship to better meet its proposed role, or at least undo the arena commander-based nerfs? They've been doing that ship, and it should kind of been wrapped up by now, according to the schedule, but they never ever said they were going to do a real rework of it. I don't think the look of it will change much, but yeah, definitely the numbers are always up to be rebalanced on
They
any
did
ship.
redo the cockpit, but they're not going to do the thing that the community is asking for the most.
Yeah,
they have been so stubborn about their ship.
Yeah. You go read the original concept, and I know Haze has done this, but you guys can go do this too. And you go read the original concept. It was meant to be a ship that you kind of crawl around in, akin to a World War II bomber. If you think of how they got down on their hands and knees and crawled around. Now, if you actually go into the Starfarer, there's actually, if you go into the nook and crannies up there on that, there are actually areas you can crawl around in on that. And as soon as I did that on my Starfarer, and then I went back to the Vanguard, I went, oh shit, this would have been so cool. And they've made it chunkier so you can simply walk around in it. I just think it would have been such a unique ship to be able to crawl around in it like that. There's no other ship that's of that size, and being a long distance fighter, it needed to be a bit smaller. I think it's a little bit chunky. It also makes it harder to hit.
But basically, that sleek gameplay original concept design, they will never update it to that, and I think that's a shame because it's one of the most beautiful ships they ever made. And it's unfortunately gave to someone who was just starting out, but that's spilt milk, and they're not going to lick it off the ground. We're stuck with this.
I think he kind of ended up leaving the studio over it, to be honest.
It's unfortunate. The community backlash really was really bad.
It hit him hard.
It hit him hard. Yeah.
But to be honest, they kind of need to listen to people because we're people buying the game, and it was the most purchased ship for a long time. It really was. Like, it's been overtaken by the Carrack now, because of what was done to it. But like I know so many people that brought it because of the BKUs. It was kind of like 3 ships in one that we talked about last time I was on the show. So it's probably like, it's really funny they're at the same price point. But you look at the Redeemer and the Vanguard, they're the probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but the 2 most kind of half disappointing ships in the game at the moment, anyway.
To be honest, the Vanguard is an amazing ship for what it does on paper and how it's going to function in the verse. The only main disappointment people have these days is either technical, waiting for 2.0 systems to come with regards to, let's say, weapons or systems working, things it just doesn't do right now, all the variants being out. And the other thing is the original concept not lining up with the older concept. And I think a ship by itself, it is an amazing ship, and its variants are an amazing ship, and even the buck system make it a very flexible ship. It's going to stay as it is, but at the same time, it is an important ship, a useful ship, and it's no by any means a piece of trash.
I just, in counterpoint to that, I know I talked this a bit. We've talked about this ship to death, by the way, guys. Just so you know, I wonder how its size affects its ability. I think I'll leave it at that. And that we can't answer that until all the gameplay things are online, and that means e-warfare, the torpedoes, and stuff like that. So in the next 12 months, we'll probably be able to answer that.
It's sort of like people expect it to be a dogfighter. It's not a dogfighter. It's a Squadron ship. It's supposed to be working with other ships, and we just don't have that gameplay right now. So. Well,
it's technically a scout ship. Is literally what it's a long-range scout ship.
Long-range, sort of, not infiltrator, but it can hit far away in the distant enemy lines without support. So yeah. Yeah.
Well, the Sentinel's kind of a bit of exploration with that module that it's got in it. It's got beds in it and stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't know. It sits in a weird place. It doesn't have beds, actually. I just remember. It's got a shower and bathroom. Sorry.
I think it's the Warden that has the beds, and the others don't.
The Warden. My bad. Yeah, the Warden. Yeah, and the toilet, and it's got the long range capability that the other two don't have. You can go farther and longer. Point is, though, I think the size increase kind of negatively hits it because it would have been sleeker and more maneuverable. My biggest problem with it as it stands right currently, and it's probably going to get fixed, is how easy it is to kind of take out by ramming it. Like every time in the PU when I get rammed by an AI, it takes out one of the engines and the ship just becomes literally unplayable. It's got a huge design flaw from a combat perspective because it's such a big target. But I could talk about this ship for another 50 minutes because it's got some really bad problems with it. But we should probably move on to another question because I can see one about to go at the bottom of the screen.
Okay, do ground vehicles have a kind of internal storage, or is the SCU value the only type of storage? Absolutely. Dragonfly has internal ammo-based storage that fits like half an SCU in each, I think it's a quarter SCU in each of the bags, and then half an SCU on the seat, and it's secured cargo. It's not just laying there. And the Tumbril Cyclone, you have to get the base model, and it takes a whole 1 SCU, I think.
I think you can store he also answers the question saying he thinks it's silly that you can't store some guns and that on it, but I think you can. I think in the concept pictures they had a picture of the gun
racks on the side, didn't they?
Yeah, gun rack at the front. I think you'll find they'll have a standardised gun rack on the front, and that'll be fine. And it'll just be near your seat or something like that. Even that, you can just sit there and hold it. Maybe, I don't know. Again, a lot of game development seems up in the air, but it always comes down to common sense. And you've got to take a bit of faith with you into any of this stuff. And again, if we complain about it enough, they'll fix it. Next question. It just went off the bottom of the screen again.
Oh dear.
Every time.
You up with, Red Dragon. in-game play, if you were unloading your whole CD and E, and say it took a long time to unload, 12 to 24 hours, could you go and fly another ship in your hangar if you had it and do a minor mission? Well, straight up, I do not think it's going to take 12 to 24 hours. If it took 20 minutes to unload a Holly, I think that'd be okay, but I think either that would be automated if you're at a port, or you'd go around with Argos and unload it manually, which they've talked about before. But I think if you're talking about being able to do something else at the same time, I don't think you want to log out, but here's a suggestion. Multi-boxing is a thing. Multi-boxing in any MMO is totally a thing. Whether it's setting up a storefront and then going off on a quest and a raid at the same time, so you can keep tabs and reset up your store when things sold out, or you just want to like AFK in one area while you go off and do something else, or taking a second character with you as a support and just like literally alt-tabbing between the two. I've done it for years. There's nothing to say you can't play 2, 3 different characters simultaneously and just juggle. Learn to juggle. So yeah, it's you just.
I don't think it'll. I could probably see the extreme of say something like the E being. Sorry, I've always got to do that figure out which is largest, but the E maybe taking an hour. But that would have to be at some port that just not equipped properly, and if you had to do it all by hand, and that'd be your worst nightmare. But 24 hours, no, that's not fun.
That's a bit ridiculous. They wouldn't do it.
There was another
fun.
Sorry, there was also another question that's gone off the bottom of the screen. But replied, by the way, that I know you can't do 2 things at once.
The Vanguard was sold as the tip of the spear. It's supposed to be jump in first, deal heavy damage, and be able to hold off until it helps arrives or pull out. I agree. Is something like the Polaris. It's supposed to be a boom and zoom. It's supposed to take something in from the side or do that first hit, and then there's supposed to be other fighters that either support it or it needs to run away. It is not a dogfighter, and it shouldn't be compared to them on a first one.
It almost seems to me like the E-Warfare variant would be almost a bit to an interdiction ship, where it kind of gets in there and holds them up so they can't leave, so other people can arrive. That's how I see that version of that ship. There was actually another question, man, that is gone off the screen. It's now about 3 or 4 down. I don't know who it was by. I just remember there was a question. Or we completely missed it. Yeah, no, it's way after
It wasn't a question. Tal'Daran said the Vanguard was supposed to be a boom and zoom, and CAG killed that sort of gameplay with the velocity nerfs. Well, they've sort of undone that a bit. We've seen some of the Evocati leaks, and so it's sort of like they really try to nerf velocity hard because, I don't know, that's CAG's vision, and they've literally rolled back and thrown away all the 2.6 flight model because they realized how much of a screw-up that was. And it's good that they learned. It's just that they took so much criticism in the process and got nowhere, and now they're back to square one. It's like, yeah.
Tony, with your question, man, we answered that really extensively about 20 minutes ago, so if you go back and watch the stream after it goes up on YouTube, it'll answer your question. Taekwondo. Yeah, you go for it. You go.
If you have a dedicated fighter for trade and multi-role, you rather have a Cutlass Black or the Freelancer? I don't consider the Freelancer a dedicated fighter. I could see it as a support, like militia ship, like with the missiles. But I think the Cutlass Black is much more closer to a dedicated fighter or closer to a brawler. The Freelancer is... Yeah.
I read that question differently. If you already have a fighter, so a fighter to escort one of those 2 ships, which one of those ships would you take? I think that's how he's...
So he means it as a dedicated fighter, yeah.
Yeah. So which cargo ship would you rather?
Oh yeah, Freelancer Max. Hands down.
I'd still chuck the the Taurus.
Yeah, Taurus. Very similar price. $10 more, twice the capacity.
Yep.
Probably, much better range, and its weapons are definitely dwarf anything a Freelancer has. So yeah, I'd totally go for the Taurus. It's one of my favorite. It's probably my favorite constellation. I think it's going to be neat.
Ooh, that's a bit cool. I'm going to probably go with Andromeda still for Connie, but Yeah, it's not for price. I don't think you can kind of beat it too. I also think the Constellation has really good engines for its ship size. It's really quite maneuverable for its size. So I think on a cargo ship that's going to be really helpful, especially if shit hits the fan, you got to escape.
Well, what if you use the Taurus as a salvage ship or an exploration ship? It's got that extra cargo. Who's to say you can't put most of those systems in? Like replace the turret with the scanning turret. I'm not saying it can, but what if it could? I'm saying it'd be less guns on this thing, but who gives a shit? Maybe it can do all those multi-role things too.
If anyone's wondering why I'm sitting funny, it's because we've got a heat wave here and I'm starting to get really hot. But that's all right.
It's stupidly hot. 100% humidity here.
Yeah. Since they actually created the alien language for the Xian, do you think we'll be able to play as aliens like the Xian or even the Vanguard? They've stated they want to do that down the road.
Yep. So it'll definitely be after release, but not anything right
Banu
now.
as well. Xian and Banu. Vandal, maybe that's right on the end of the list. They probably said they may never do that. So the one I suspect that we might see is the aliens that are on the other side of the Banu, but I always forget their name.
Kathak.
Yeah, that one. Is the Polaris the biggest ship right now that can get LTI into? How about Idris and Javelin? Yeah, you can get it as soon as you go over $1,000. As Haze was saying before, they always come with LTI. So that answers that question. No Merlin, the Javelin is, then the Idris you can get. Oh, he answered the question for him.
CVK Prodigy asked, honest opinion, when will the merchant be hangar ready? Well, one, they're not doing hangar ready anymore. They go straight to flight ready these days.
Yep.
But personally, the merchantmen, if they haven't already started working on it, they will definitely start early next year, because that was on the old production schedules. You can see that they won't be working on the Carrack, 890 Jump, and the merchantmen as the next big ships that they're moving into, after the ones they've already touched. It
was on the schedule to be done halfway through the year, same as the Carrack.
So, like, by the end of next year?
Gamescom.
Yeah, that's right. Towards the end of next year, I definitely think we're going to see the Carrack, the Banner Merchantman, and the 890 Jump. Which would be... Yeah, many people's dreams will be answered. Many different people.
I already know the answer. Already know the answer to this question, because we've already answered it today. Question: what ship would you use for long-range escort?
Polaris.
He's sitting in it. No.
Oh, the Defender. Yeah. As a fighter escort, yes, the Defender. Yeah.
But if you're going in a huge, that kind of depends again. I guess that's why you've said Polaris. But it depends if you're going in a huge chain, or is it just a Banu merchantman and a few fighters, or is it just a freelancer and a fighter? Again, the Defender, hands down, at the moment. It's just too flexible to ignore in its current state. But again, you've always got to wait till the ship comes out. But on paper, it just beats everything else at the moment.
Okay, Gecko asks, what are your personal predictions on when Star Citizen will go into beta or even release? 2.5 years?
Yeah, well, as I said, with Squadron 42, I think we may see something next year. I'll put it this way, I'd like to see something before 2020, and I think we'll definitely see something before that. The PU is going to be a really interesting one, because it kind of will go really slow as the tools are developed. So the way you look at it now, people are like, oh man, it's taken so long just to get this first system done. You know, we're only getting the 3.0 is only one planet and a couple of moons, and then, you know, they reckon end of next year might get the whole solar system. But then what people don't realise is they've already been working on Pyro, which is the next system over. So as it'll overflow, and you'll get this one system, and then you might get the next 5 systems in the same time it took to do that one system, and then boom.
They are far much more ahead, and like with what they're actually doing and what they've produced than what they let on. Many people have commented on that. People have done studio tours. They've said, yeah, there's so much more than what everyone thinks. But the other thing is, why do we need to release and beta? Like, I mean, Squadron 42 is going to come out sometime. Like, but 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, those are going to be incredibly exciting patches. Compared to 3.0, those are going to have the bread and the butter, all the content, and a lot of the polish. And those systems that they've put in for the first time will be iterated on many times over. That's going to be exciting to play. I think people will be playing Star Citizen very actively by the time we get to 3.3.
I think the scary thing that people need to refocus in their mind, and this is just me being an old developer, is they've stated now that they were having 3.0, 3.1, 3.2, all the way up to 4. They're switching from that now and going to quarterly. Now, that doesn't mean the very next quarter release after 3 is 3.1.
No.
No?
It means whatever was ready, they stuck it in.
Yeah. So, theoretically, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, so don't set this in stone, 3.1 could be a year later.
Could be.
What they're saying is they're no longer restricting themselves to dates. They're just going to, when it's ready, boom, you get a, and if it doesn't make it into that patch, you get the next one. So we're not going to have this huge, great drought. Did you see the timeline post of releases that was up? I think it was on Monday our time.
No,
did you see that?
One. No.
And there was a big gap last year between Grimhex and Star Marine, and that was like 6 months. And then there was a gap. Then the gap this time around is like 8 months long. So, yeah, what they're trying to do is they don't want to have those big gaps anymore. And now the foundation of 3.0's in, they can do way more
Delta patches.
Delta patches and routine releases. So they're going to take advantage of that Delta patches, and it'll be great. It'll be better for everyone, because I've said a few times to Haze, I'd rather be drip-fed content than it come in a one big wave surprise, because it comes in this one big wave and it feels awesome and euphoric, and then it's over. I'd rather be consistent little news bits all the way along. I don't know if there's another question before this one, but Merlin asks, Orion, Crucible, Endeavour, Reclaimer, will we see of them in 2018 in your opinion?
Reclaimer? Yes.
Reclaimer's already done. Reclaimer's already done. It'll be done by now.
They've been sitting on that for ages.
I think they said they'll start the Endeavour and Crucible next year, so we might not see those to 2019.
Yeah.
And Orion, I think, is way back on the back burner. It's after them.
Yeah. It's those 3 ships are not the current focus. The current focus that they're moving into now. Well, right now they're working on the Hull C. They are finishing off the Javelin and the Reclaimer. They should have already started on the 890 Jump. Been looking at starting the Carrack, and what was the other? The Banu Merchantman is on that list as well. But until they get all of those ships further into final completion stages, then they will start probably looking at some of those ships. But it's not current production at all for any of those 3.
You have a cap ship with an NPC. Your org mates Agent Smith into them, so take over from them for a fight and die. Who dies, them or the NPC? I don't think you can Agent Smith like you're thinking, unfortunately.
I like the idea behind the Agent Smithing, and the thing is, they haven't talked about this for many, many years. So, but it promotes playing with your friends as opposed to having to travel long distances in order to try and meet up and play together. And I think at the end of the day, it's more fun to be able to instantly jump in and play with the people you want to play, your friend group, as opposed to having, several hour commutes just to try to get to the place they've just recently moved on to. So I'm not going to completely discount the idea. I'd like to see it, but we don't have any idea what direction they're going to be taking this yet.
Mark Douglas says something about the Reclaimer there. They pretty much, back in September or August, said they had 2 rooms left to do on the Reclaimer, and then they had to do the pass for the what do they call it when they're broken now? I can't think of the name. And then it was done. What do you call it? Derelicts was the last stage. They had added a new stage. Yeah. Merlin also asked, which professions, in your opinion, would be the most profitable in PU going from past MMO experiences like Eve? skill-based MMO, it really is going to come down to the niche of the profession and how good you are at doing it. If you're a prodigy at doing something, then you're obviously going to make more money than other people.
I think there's a more complex question to that. I think when you mix professions is where you'll see the most profit. The most easy example of that is when you mix military with an industry profession, go out to more dangerous areas and push that skill versus reward curve as hard as you're capable of doing. And that's where the money is. It's not about mining is better than trade, is better than reclamation. No, it's when you
working with friends and in big numbers.
Yes, and tackling harder things that normally one profession would not be able to do without the support of the other. That's where the money is.
Real quick example on that is Prospector versus Orion. Yeah, the Prospector can go easily get those small little minerals and make a lot of money, but I don't think it'll ever beat an Orion on sheer mass.
But then what if you took a fleet of a couple of Prospectors and escorted them with a Polaris in a dangerous area?
That's right.
They might be picking up pure gold or something. I have no idea. But then they might earn a hell of a lot more of Orion in a completely safe space where it can mine without anyone attacking it. You know,
and then you can go up again. Same fleet with the Prospectors and the Polaris. You chuck in a couple of Orions as well, and you got a huge org doing a whole huge mining range. Boom, just melts the entire asteroid field. Boom.
It's what you make of it. It's how you play it. It's how you work together with other people in other industries or other supporting methods, where the two sync and synergize together to make something stronger and better.
How should we see the value of the Anvil Hurricane? You seem to need a second pilot to allow it to work well and effective, but they have also said it is not durable, but small and thus hard to hit strafing runs, like what we saying previously about the Polaris.
People say
it's always going to be about.
Yeah. I think it's one of those ships that you don't think of it as a pure dogfighter. I think that's the wrong way to think of this ship. This is a ship you put into a squadron, you engage with the main wing, and then you flank with the Hurricane. Yeah. And therefore, their attention is taken away. The Hurricane is then given free sort of capacity to engage. If they change target, then that squadron is on the other guy's tail, and they deal with it. In other words, this is a ship that is used in a team, not a solo ship.
Yeah. If it was alone, strafing. If it was with others, yeah, I 100% agree. You'd want to use the cover of other ships. I see it as a ship that will focus on a high-value target, go in hard-hitting, barrel all its bullets straight at something, and then just zoom straight through and out the other side. And if you try and chase it, it just runs.
Yep. And as I said, if you're in a group, you use that group to peel for you, so that they can keep whatever you're attacking off of you and try to keep them busy so you can be firing at them. And that's where its true value lies.
Yeah. I think also the benefit of that ship is how harmoniously the pilot and the gun are going to be worked together. I think that's where the ability for them to be on a voice chat together and, all right, so I'm going on the left, you need to target on the left now type of thing, and they have that communication factor going. And a game that you and I play, Natural Selection, highly works on comms. If you don't have the comms, I don't think you'll have it working. And I think that's going to probably tailor across a lot of the ships, to be honest. Like the better you work together, the more benefit you get out of them. So.
It's also one of those ships where a dedicated gunner and someone with a proper mouse aim, which is, hacks, and someone else who's a dedicated pilot, probably joysticks and pedals, has the best of both worlds. And someone who's trying to do both on one of those setups will not be good as two people who are dedicated to those roles. Yeah. And so it's one of those ships that excels in that area more than any other fighter.
Yeah, we've stated that before, man. That we probably haven't stated on the show, but I've stated to you. I think flyers are going to be the joystick users, and I think a lot of turret gunners and other combat stuff is going to be the mouse and keyboard users. You do what you love, type of thing. So if you really love flying, then you'll get a joystick and you'll use the joystick.
Well,
but when it comes to combat,
who's trying to fly right is never going to be able to compete someone else who's doing the flying for them, and they have the freedom to target without having to worry about the position of their ship. Because when you try to fight to fly, you sacrifice your ability to aim. So by separating those two roles into two different positions, you gain advantages that a single joystick or a single mouse user cannot do at the same time. It's just one of those things. I don't know how they're going to balance that, but at the end of the day, the idea is beautiful for multi-crew.
They try to do that with the weapon gimbals and stuff. Yeah, that's again a bit of a wait to see. So Tony Garcia asks here, question: do you believe people with 3+ ships will be charged to keep up front when the game is finished? Basically punish them financially, since game packages come with limited UEC and F40+ ships. I think they'll have the hangar fees and you'll keep your ships in your hangar and they'll be fine.
I think as long as you aren't using them, they shouldn't be costing you any money. And I don't think the insurance is going to count down unless it's time you're actually flying. Because, you know, what's someone to go away for 6 months and they've bankrupted themselves because all their insurance ran out and they don't play very often.
Or it does run out and you just buy it again when you use the ship.
It's not supposed to be very expensive. Insurance is not supposed to be worth much compared to fuel and ammunitions, and it's supposed to be a minor cost. It's not supposed to bankrupt you.
If they make it so that you have to, like, you could potentially have your hangar destroyed, that'll be a nightmare, because it means you'd have to constantly keep all ships insured. But if they make it so once it's I am expecting that there'll be a ship that I probably won't use very much, and it'll sit there, and I'll only pull it out once every 6 months because I just have too many ships. You know, the other way I've said this to Haze, and I don't know if I should say it here, but I will anyway, is if you do have too many ships and you find you're not using it when the game releases, just sell it. Sell it to someone and get your money back. See it as an investment. But CIG probably not going to like that, but I'm pretty sure it's going to happen.
Gecko is asking, I need a money-making ship, one small and one very large. What ship in particular do you guys have an interest in that will net you in-game currency? I'm torn between the Orion and the Starfarer. Well, for one, Orion's only doing one thing well, and probably nothing too much else. But the Starfarer is really the jack of all trades, and master of one.
I wouldn't say the jack, but I would say jack implies many. I would say that it can do two things and it does one thing really well. But I get where you're coming from, and I do agree. Yeah, out of those two, yeah, the Starfarer, if you're purely based on going for money, also they both take 8 crew members, so they're about the same size. As for the small ship, that really comes down to your preference. We did talk about the Terrapin earlier. That's a pretty good...
And the Taurus.
Good one. And the Taurus.
Yeah. And the Freelancer Max. If you just want a small ship.
You could go a Prospector and a Starfarer. That would kind of give you your Orion fix. Yeah. Merlin asks, what December holiday sale is like? New ships, all old ships on sale for a few days again. No, usually it's a really limited. It's just a live stream in December.
Last year they had a lot of ships on sale, but they didn't have anywhere near all of them. So they have like 3 or 4. That's about it. Yeah.
It's more like a package, yeah, and they
a couple of big ships though. You know, there's
yeah they do, but it's not it's more like water off the duck's back compared to the
the anniversary sales.
This is the only the anniversary sale is literally 90% of ships. Like you don't get any other type of sale like this sort of year. If you're going to buy a ship, this is the time to buy because it won't be up again until next year.
Yeah, and I think the landscape's going to change a great deal until the next anniversary sale as well. So maybe not the wisest decision to be patient unless it's a ship that is already flying.
Yeah, I don't like to be able to say that because traditionally I've kind of been able to say, hold off, and if you don't have the money, save. But man, I think after this, a lot of prices are going to go up.
The production is ramping up. They've never worked so fast and on so many ships and pumped them out. And to be honest, they're running out on small ships to produce.
I think next year we'll have a lot of medium concept ships, to be honest.
I hope so. I really do.
with fringe land claims requiring data runners to transmit the claims to the UE, do you thinking you could intercept a herald and steal the land claim and forge it? Yeah, you could.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't see why not.
That seems
in fact,
good business.
You wouldn't even need to forge it. You could literally just change the name on the claim to your own.
Yeah, or you could just steal the data for the claim and sell it before they can.
Yep.
That's
pretty much fundamentally what it is.
Yeah.
Though it'd still have to be verified, but that'd be quite funny if they sent it in and because they tried to claim it after you, it verified it. That'd be quite funny. Yeah, that's again gameplay that's kind of emerging that we haven't seen. That obviously, every little thing that I thought was not going to be that important is kind of they're crossing over each other and becoming interesting. So a lot of professions are wait and see. You go.
Talodran asks, with S3 weapons being shoehorned into smaller ships, do you think the Vanguard's main weapon will see a size increase that justifies its size? Like the Vanguard has got more weapons on it than any other ship, even close. There's nothing remotely close to the amount of firepower a Vanguard have. I did the math at one time, and it's almost close to half the firepower of a Constellation. And yet it's a third of the size.
I should pull out I should see if I can find the screen. You know the gun that I have on my Vanguard? The one on the nose?
No, I don't.
I've got that laser.
Got the size 5. Oh yeah, the Burling.
Yeah, that really big bearing laser on it, and it's so big that it's physically like cutting into the ship because the model's too big. Yeah. But yeah, it just decimates. Like in one shot ships with it, just and if it hits them like an Aurora, it's gone.
Yeah, and you don't discount the 6 size 2 weapons on it from the turret and on the nose. That is more collectively than any heavy fighter at the moment, unless you want to compare something like a Vandal-based ship. But at the end of the day, this thing has got so much firepower. They want to nerf it before they thought about putting more than one. It's like more likely to go the other way because I can't see them putting more firepower on that thing.
Merlin kind of expands your multiple boxing idea here. Will you be able to have on a few of your ships logged in at the same time and fly it as one fleet? Or really you're having your characters logged in, so technically if you really wanted to, you could park your ships in space and have NPCs fly them.
Multi-boxing is more about running multiple clients as opposed to logging out and logging into another character. Like, I have 3 game packages at the moment. They're on 3 different accounts.
You only have 3?
Only 3. Yeah.
Wow.
I know some people have tons.
Weird. Holy shit.
Yeah, I know.
I've got tons for like 6 or 7. Yeah.
But that
motivates me now. Sorry.
I think logging out and leaving your ship, whether it's doing something or you just want to do something else, I think it's going to despawn your ship, or you're leaving your ship with someone who either you trust. But the whole idea behind multi-boxing is actually running multiple clients. Whether they let you do this or they don't let you do this, or you use multiple PCs to achieve this effect, multi-boxing is very much about multitasking, about alt-tabbing, about literally maybe even having separate screens for that sort of a setup. I remember one time on one MMO, I bought another 2 high-powered laptops and my gaming PC, so I had 3 computers, and each laptop ran 5 clients. And I might have like up to 3 clients for my main gaming PC, so I'd have 13 clients open at once. Mind you, most of those were shops, like buying and selling stuff, and maybe a couple of AFKs, different spots, just to sort of chat, and then maybe one to actually play the game.
I'd see it realistically, someone having an NPC drive their cargo ship, and they might be out in the escort fighter because that's just what they want to do, but they're still going with their other ships.
I can totally see it for something like a Javelin. That thing is a fucking level in itself. Oops, I swore. But the thing is, like...
I did earlier, don't worry.
You have sorry, Twitch. You put a character down in engineering, you put another character at a station for controlling the main guns. There's the huge, massive guns on that, and you put another one in navigation. most of the time you'd be flying around. You take some damage, you might switch over the engineering and, you know, just quickly fix something up, because walking there and abandoning your station is a horrible idea. And maybe if you decide to, because the movement on javelins is based off a waypoint system, they've told us. Why not just, you know, oh, it looks like it's flowing in the right direction, take over the main guns and fire it yourself. What's better than firing some of the biggest guns in the game on a turret and actually piloting and navigating your ship at the same time? I think that's a huge lot of fun. You know, why not? Why can't you have your cake and eat it? So, you know, I see multi-boxing, especially in some larger ships, where just going from A to B, as opposed to, oh shit, I got to fix that in engineering. Alt-tab.
Yeah, pretty much.
Absolutely. It's totally going to be a thing.
Taekwondo asks, do you expect more ships in the future with non-combat focus from Anvil and Aegis? What concepts do you think we can still expect from Anvil? Maybe an Anvil trade ship. I think we will see more non-combat focused ships, but if they're from Anvil and Aegis, I'm going to kill myself. There's too many Aegis ships at this point. There's too many missed ships, and there's probably not enough Anvil. But you've got to think of what type of manufacturer they are. So Aegis and Anvil are competitors in the military area. Mist seems to have the cargo area nailed down with a bit of science and a bit of
yeah, you see, they need to get like
fueling thrown in.
Kruger Intergalactic into the fray. They need to get more things for Consolidated Outlands. They need to get more for all these other smaller, like what is it, Crusader Industries. These are the sort of companies that would be perfect for industry ships, perfect for non-military based vessels. And so I don't think they need to touch Misk and Aegis and Anvil at all, especially since they want to go now into a more industry-focused sort of ships.
If you watch the last episode I was on, we talked about this and we went over ships like Consolidated Land, possibly doing the middle-class minor. We talked about a lot of how they've done the smaller and larger ships, and that there will probably be a lot more medium ships coming in the future for these
Ben talked about
professions.
He said it all year, and yet we've waited and waited, and he gave us a pioneer.
I think it's coming.
Thanks,
I think it's coming.
I appreciate it, but like, where's those medium industry ships you promised?
I think they've been pushed into next year because of the ground vehicles, like you stated.
Yeah.
All right, I think we'll wrap it up there because I'm about to die. I haven't eaten, and I've got third-degree burns from these lights.
Hey, you guys have been
really
amazing.
hot.
You just keep these questions coming. It's been crazy.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be a short show, and I think we've now kind of equaled the last one we did, which is about an hour and a half. So, yeah, we've gone really quickly. Merlin asked real quick: Polaris plus small industry ship better than a few large industry ships with small fighters for protection. Again, it comes down to the size of number of friends you have.
But, you know, Polaris, it can go longer, and why can't you take a couple of small fighters with that Polaris and refuel them? Yeah, I think that's a better deal.
Yeah, I think the Polaris is really going to be its strong point when you use it as like a mobile hangar. That's its that and its torpedoes that can hit above its class sizes.
Weight class
advantage, and being the smallest capital ship, so it's a bit cheaper to run than the others. That's basically it. It's probably the most popular capital ship in the game just because it's the smallest. That's simple. All right, Gecko, last one. How many players in one instance do you want to see when Star Citizen launches and I'm in a large police crew and we may have to pull out our Javelins, Idris and Polaris in a show of power? It really comes down to how well they get that 7-mission working. I'd love to be able to see 2 Idrises go toe-to-toe. So that's, 83 people. So that's like 140, 160 plus people.
I reckon
if they get
200 people would do it pretty well. But, you know,
if
they could get 1,000, why not? But I'd honestly settle for 200 because you get some amazing battles with that.
Yeah. Oh, man, I reckon you're getting amazing battles with 60. Battlefield does it.
Yeah.
So Battlefield does it with 30. So, you know, like, if they can reach Battlefield quality, I will be content. I'll put it that way. If they can go better than that, that'll be freaking sick. So, all right, boys and girls. I miss Kid.
This is Haze. If you have any further comments, like questions, because I know you're inundating us with this, put it in our YouTube channel comments where this video is going to reside, and we'll make sure to answer this in our free time.
Yep, no worries, and I'll try and get back to any questions that come up during the weekend. I know Haze will be the same.
As always,
all right,
catch you around.
Bye, guys. Wait, do I have to do the sound effects? Oh wait, there's no. See you next time.
Around the verse.
Oh fuck no.